Hello and welcome back to the Trusted Podcast. Today we've got the one and only Martin Jennings. We discuss his journey from mathematician to CEO. Martin is a huge believer that everyone in the business is a salesperson. And in this episode, we spend loads of time going through how sales has changed over the years, what salespeople should be looking at to build efficiency, and how you can get ahead. Sit back, grab a cuppa, and get ready for the content. Martin, a very warm welcome to the Trusted Podcast. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Very good. Nice to see you guys.
Fresh off the plane from a couple of weeks.
Fresh off the plane, yeah. I had a nice holiday over Christmas. And then I've sort of done it the last few years now. I've taken a bit of time off at the beginning of January to get some winter sun, shall we say. Yeah, it breaks up winter.
It does. One of the best holidays I ever remember was going away with my parents for a couple of weeks in January. Went on the 2nd of January, and you just miss that first month back, which is always tough after Christmas.
I think it is.
The dark nights.
January, February, so my view on this is if you get a couple of weeks of sun, you come back, you get back into the beginning of the year, you get everything set up, you get going. You're then into the Six Nations, right? And then all you've got to do is get through the Six Nations, and then you're into spring, right? So, the run up to Christmas is nice, right? You're finishing off the year end, you're pushing through hard. Christmas is nice, spend time with family and bits and pieces. So everyone kind of likes that kind of run up to Christmas. Yeah. It's just that little bit afterwards, and just sort of shorten winter a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. Definitely. And before you know it, you end up in Malone's Caff with me and Marcus.
Malone's Caff
having a cheese.
Hopefully it's going to be a new tradition.
I think it will be. It will be. We had a nice little chat there, warmed up, and we're ready to go straight over.
What's the saying? Kind of. What's said in Malone's Caff stays in Malone's Caff. How about that?
That is the number one rule.
Yeah, number one rule. The only one rule of the Trusted Podcast. What stays in Malone's.
Super busy start to the year for you guys. Flagship event later on this month?
Next week. Yeah, we've got our Let's Grow event next week, which is our 5th sort of running of the session. We've hired the Cutty Sark this year, so we always sort of slightly sort of weird and wonderful kind of locations. We've done Kew Gardens, and we've done the Barbican, and we've we did the Battersea Power Station last year, and so this year we're at Cutty Sark. So next week I think planning's going well. To be honest, I haven't caught up with them since I got back from holiday, but looking forward to it.
And we've got friend of the pod, Mabel Insights, as a sponsor as well, Martin Coyle.
Yeah, good old Martin. Been nice to catch up with him again.
Yeah, that's it. For the keen-eyed viewers at home, you'll see that the logo is in the bottom right corner. New sponsor for this year, so mutual friends for us.
Mutual friends, yeah. Look, I met Martin back in AXA many years ago when we started building out the first Elevate platform. Actually, so I can't remember when he exactly joined, but we sort of started around 2006-07. So I think he was one of the early guys into the team there. Really nice chap.
Yeah. And I think let's start there, because one of the things that struck me when we first spoke, you've always led sales teams, you've always had senior management positions with focuses on sales, but you've never done boots on the ground sales yourself.
No,
either. How does that come about?
I don't know. I think I probably my first. I wasn't in financial services in the early part of my career. I did a maths degree. Yeah. Started working for a small marketing consultancy business, and then ended up getting a job at AXA in 2001, I believe. And quickly kind of realised that I didn't understand what anyone was talking about, and for some reason I ended up on the platform build out. Big Life company looking to move. Standard Life had moved. AXA were looking to do it. Do they buy somebody? Do they build something? We ended up building a platform with FNZ. Yeah. And I went along to do more of the sort of customer product side of things, sort of strategy product, because that was more my background really, on sort of more on the data and analysis side. Yeah. And a few kind of bits and pieces changed, and ultimately I ended up with all the sales teams, all the business consultancy teams, all the product teams, in a sort of, I can't tell you how it happened, right? Yeah. So yes, I've never been a frontline BDM. Yeah. And I've kind of led sales teams from there. Yeah. And then obviously moving to FNZ in 2011, you kind of, take on the job of kind of leading the business. But, I don't know, everyone's always in sales. That's what I always think, right? You're always selling something.
Yeah.
So look, how did it happen? I don't know. Well, I know how it happened. It kind of transpired that the guy that was going to run sales went off to be the sales director for the broader AXA Life business.
Yeah.
And I put my hand up and said, can I have a go at that?
Yeah.
And we had a really good guy that ran the sales team there, a guy called Andy Coleman. So he was doing the sales management and running the sales team. But it was my first kind of introduction to getting out and seeing IFAs as it was back then. Yeah. Quite nerve-wracking in the early days.
I bet.
I imagine you've had to kind of reverse engineer there, haven't you? You've come in at that level, and then I bet you had to kind of go out, be the man on the street, on the beat, and go and kind of with all the BDMs, knocking down doors and stuff like that to kind of learn.
Yeah, I was probably getting introduced more to sort of some of the strategic partners at that time.
Yeah.
I actually think sort of if you look at the job I do now, I see more clients now than I probably did then. I probably I spend most of my time seeing customers, and my sales team know that if they ever want me to go and see somebody, I'll go and see them.
Yeah.
Back then, advisors, IFAs were kind of a scary group for me. I didn't have a heritage in financial services.
Yeah.
I'm building out this new platform business that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to customers about what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And we didn't even have a product, right? Yeah. So, I think I got a bit baptism of fire, should I say, back then. Clearly that changed. Moving to FNZ is more institutional stuff. So not so much on the retail side.
Yeah. On that note, you told us a very funny story about turning up at an IFA's office. You can tell it if you want. You can anonymise it as well, about turning up at the office and him poking the head out the door and giving you a right bollocking off. And he didn't want you there. He wanted someone else.
Yeah. Look. Yeah. Look, it was one of those ones. That was in my FNZ days kind of thing, and we were building a platform, and I remember being told, go and see this customer kind of thing. So we went up to see customer. And I remember walking in the door, and the exact words were, "I don't want to bleep, 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 see you."
Yeah.
And look, it is what it is, right? You learn very quickly to put yourself in someone else's shoes. I think that's when you think about sales, and you've got to really understand the difference between sort of perception and perspective.
Yeah.
And you've really got to put yourself into somebody else's shoes, right? And I think, ultimately that sort of process. I mean, in the end, we kind of won him over, right?
It was that charm.
I don't know about that, but we won him over with delivery. At the end of the day, you've got to deliver something, right? I think charm only gets you so far.
It does.
Yeah, I'm sure you know this, right?
It only gets you so far when you're in reception as well, Martin.
Well, yeah, we were talking earlier, weren't we, in the cafe there, and I always say we have a town hall every kind of month, and everyone's in sales, right? I always say everyone's in delivery. I always say everyone's in service. Everyone's in sales. But first impressions are quite important, right? You walk into a new office, and in some places that you guys will go, if the person on reception doesn't like you, you're not going to find your way. How you treat the person on reception will get played back to the business owner.
Yeah.
Some people forget about that kind of stuff.
Completely agree. And you say everyone's in sales. Go into that a bit more. What does that mean?
So what is sales? I mean, we're here, and the podcast here is about for the sales community, and I kind of trying to think about kind of what is sales? How do you define sales? And for me, it's kind of everyone's in sales, and there's different jobs. For example, some people sort of talk about hunters and farmers. Some people talk about different roles. I'm a BDM, I'm a BDC, I'm a BDD. I don't know. They kind of all these different jobs, and they get lumped together. And ultimately, there's just different parts of the process. So, finding new clients, going out and winning new clients, and getting them to sign up to your products, getting them to sign up to your proposition, getting them to sign up to your business is probably the hardest bit. It's like being a striker in football, isn't it? The hardest job is putting the ball in the net, right? Yeah. But to put the ball in the net, you need a whole kind of 10 people behind you to make that happen, right? And so I think you got to think about the process of winning new business, the process of kind of growing that business, and it takes different roles. So someone's got to go out and win the client. Somebody's then got to go and train them. Somebody's got to onboard them. Somebody's got to manage the first transfer We've lost clients where we've messed up the first transfer that's come in. So someone does a pension transfer, we make a mistake on it, we lose that client forever. So is the person in transfers in sales? For me, they are because they're sitting right back, right? They're making sure it doesn't go in the net kind of thing. And so I think everyone's in sales, and I think the challenge is we don't define these different jobs well enough. We've probably got 10 different job titles that sit in the sales process. So that's why I think everyone's in sales. Ultimately, you're representing your firm.
When we spoke as well, you stated that this industry's been built on relationships. It's a relationship type business. And we were kind of discussing the pros and cons of this kind of move towards digital with a lot of meetings. How do we, as sales individuals, remain effective?
Look, I firmly believe that in the sort of side of retail financial services that we all operate in, it's a relationship-based business. It's a contact sport. Now that contact can come in different forms. When you've never met somebody before, a new prospect, a new client coming through, face-to-face to me is always better. Once you've got a relationship with somebody, you might be able to deliver those services. So I think we get lost a little bit between we want a digital proposition, and that means that everything we do as a business is digital. The actual process of kind of winning new clients, I think, again, is a relationship-based business, and your relationships form over many times. I was out with a customer last night who I've known for 10 years since I've been at Parmenion, and he's been with Parmenion for 12 years, right? So an annual face-to-face dinner is good enough, right? He doesn't need somebody knocking on his door. So, I firmly believe that it's a contact sport, and I think that sometimes gets lost in this sort of digitization of everything. COVID has changed so much. So much is Teams based. But I don't believe if you've got 4 people on Teams calls, you really can build the same rapport that you can if you're in a room, because you pick up on signals, you pick up on cues. I mean, before you sell your products, you've got to sell yourself. First job you've got to do is sell yourself. People, if I don't like you, I'm not going to buy from you. That's just a simple rule, I think. Maybe it's an iPhone and maybe it sells itself, and maybe there are some products out there that are just that good that they sell themselves. But ultimately, the role of the sales, they've got to sell themselves, then they've got to be credible, then they've got to sell their company, and then they've got to sell their products. So it's kind of multi-layered in there.
It's interesting. I do agree with you. COVID drove efficiencies. I remember back in the day at one of my older employers, a sales executive used to book meetings in. They were kind of generating leads on the phone, and turned up from Manchester at an office in Southend, walk through the door and find out they're a restricted firm from a network that we just couldn't deal with. So it drives efficiencies on that basis. But I'm huge on first time you meet someone should be in person. Then if there is follow up from that, it's good virtual.
I agree. Look, I think for me, I have a belief in visible leadership. Right, I still work from the office. It may be because I'm old, maybe because I'm stayed in my ways. I worked through COVID because we were critical infrastructure. So, in a sense, I just that's the way I like to operate. So maybe that forms my belief. But sales is a contact sport. I would know that we've lost clients because they would say, you didn't come and see me. You didn't care.
Don't feel the love.
You didn't feel the love. Somebody else turned up and told me I was important. And I think what happened in COVID is because everyone had to work from home, your frontline sales team became a servicing team. And so then when you kind of got back out on the road and we kind of opened up again, it was then getting back out. So you then got to go from service back out to sales. And as we talked about a minute ago, right, there are different roles. There are hunters. There are people that like to go and kill. They like to go and win. They like to get out there, right? Those people were straight back out. The people who are more probably in the relationship management, account management side of it, probably quite like that servicing world. And so for them to get back out, they thought, oh, well, actually I can do 4 meetings a day or 5 meetings a day if I do them virtually. Whereas if I'm on the road, I can probably do 2 meetings a day because I've got a bit of travel and prep and that kind of thing. And so I'm more efficient. I'm doing double the amount of meetings. You're not doing any sales.
You're an order taker.
You're an order. You're an account manager. And they're not the same jobs, right? So this thing about everyone in sales, you have people who win new business, you have people who manage existing customers, and in some cases, like the client I was with last night, they'll just keep giving us business. Yeah. And as long as we don't screw up, and as long as kind of, I come along and tell them about the strategy for the next year, he doesn't need to see anybody, right? So you can't just push everybody onto a telephone-based account management. It's very, imagine how, it is possible, but it's hard. Like Power Dial, hello, I'm from Parmenion. Would you like to buy my platform? You're not going to get much, are you? Kind of thing. So I think different jobs, different horses for courses.
You're going to lose something there, aren't you? If you put everyone on that level of service, you're going to have some collateral damage.
Yeah.
Is that something you incentivize then, or are you generally happy with the regional relationships? Making sure they're doing the right things?
We've ebbed and flowed with different models because the industry has always been built up on kind of how much have you sold, and that's judged by flow, and typically that's sort of judged by gross flow. Or back in the old life days, new business index, whatever it was, which was 100% a single premium and 10, 12 times very regular premiums or something. But it's based on flow. Then you sort of go, actually, we want to pay on net flow because we want to grow. And then you say, well, actually, we want to pay on profitability because actually there's a margin play here as well. So look, we've kind of played around with those different levers, and ultimately, we're a growth business. We're very proud that we kind of try and grow double digit every year. And I think we're trying to play around. And I think the danger is you end up with one incentive scheme for all. Because for me, the account managers probably have a higher proportion of basic and a lower proportion of bonus. Whereas a sales guy, maybe a lower proportion of basic and a higher proportion of bonus. And then just uncap those things, for me, and just let them go, right? And I'm proud to say that probably, if I don't know the exact numbers, I was going to look them up this morning, but if I take the top 10, 15 earners in our company, there'll be a predominant group of salespeople in that group. But really focused on where they're driving kind of incremental revenue.
Really interesting. If we stick with kind of BDMs, we were talking about some of the challenges that they have. One thing that you said, which was completely unique that we've not had before, was BDMs becoming agents of IFAs. I won't take your thunder and explain what that means, but it'd be great for you to
it's a really hard job. So I think, as you pointed out at the beginning, I've never done a frontline sales job, so I'm not really qualified to answer this question. But let me tell you what I see. The process of sale, you've got to sell yourself, right? So advisors get very attached to their BDM. In fact, I think BDMs in the platform space, less so in the DFM space, but more in the platform space, actually hide an awful lot of crap that goes on in those businesses. So if your guy knows how to navigate his organization, they become your frontline contact point. Their account management, but they go and sort stuff out, right? Once they go and you're exposed, and I did a bit of a LinkedIn thing on this before Christmas. Once you're exposed to the organization, and there's who do you trust? Who do you go to? You don't know how to navigate that organization. So you sell yourself, right? So you build a bond with your customer. Then you sell your company. Then you sell your products. And ultimately, you're paid by the company to promote the company in the best light. And I think what you see in certain instances is people going a little bit native, where they then become the agent of the customer because they're actually the person that's taking the brunt of all the questions and then coming back to the organization and saying, the organization doesn't support me, right? I need this, I need that. But the I is the customer, it's the we, and so it's a really fine balance to play that role between, are you an agent of the company or are you an agent of the customer? And the best guys on the account management side, less so on the sales side, because they go and hunt something new and move on to the next thing. They're the social butterflies of the world, right? They just jump from one account. Once it's won, it's the organization's fault that it didn't kind of deliver. But if you're in that, the best account managers have that ability to be both the agent of the customer and the agent of the company. The less skilled ones, I think, sometimes fall a little bit the wrong side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
What dangers can that have to a provider?
Well, it just means that you're, as a company, whether it's whatever you're selling, if you're sitting there every 5 minutes and being told what's wrong with your company, you're just going to get pissed off with that guy and sack him, right? Ultimately. So it's a sort of fascinating. They become seen as kind of whiners. They become seen as you're not on the team. We're a real simple company, right? We overcomplicate it, and we have some very simple values, which are kind of be yourself, get the job done, and make tomorrow better than today, right? Pretty simple, yeah. And I think what happens in these, they get a negative mindset where it's the company's fault that the client's not giving them business, and because there's that direct relationship to your kind of variable remuneration, it becomes quite personal. And you see people, and we've had some cases where actually some of our best BDMs have actually started gone and work for their clients, gone and work for the IFA, and that's great, right? And it just changes that mindset.
Yeah, when we were in the cafe as well, we were talking about kind of different sales processes. We mentioned multifaceted sales processes. You said we obviously had a conversation about David and your team does a great job at that.
Yeah,
with the bigger firms, there are different layers that you have to work through, aren't there? It's not just you need to win one person over. It's
No. Let's break it out. I mean, all in the same industry. Take my sort of last 10, 15 years of my life. So if you go and see somebody, a directly authorized business, probably two partners, they're the decision maker.
Yeah.
They're the lords, the masters. They run everything.
They do.
Yeah. So you can go and sell your wares to that particular individual. If you then get into a national, or also more of a regional, there's probably a head office. Yeah. There's probably somebody who runs risk and compliance that's got a view. So you're all now selling. Are you selling to the business owner? Are you selling to, we know that actually, if you get the admin and power planning team on your side, they can be a great voice for good.
Yeah.
So, because they're the ones doing it. Like, advisors don't type business. Sorry, in some cases, the advisors aren't kind of dealing with the platforms. They just say, manage it. They want to negotiate the terms. They want to kind of select the process. They do the due diligence. They're on the hook for it. Yeah. But the administrators use. So in that world, you've kind of got multiple people that you're trying to do. And then if you take something like when I was at FNZ, you're doing institutional sales.
Yeah.
You've now got to sell to the board. You've got to sell to the CEO to get into. Then you've got to sell to the board.
Yeah.
Then you've got to sell to maybe the product and proposition team.
Yeah.
Then you've got to sell to the IT team. So and to get that like a 18, 24 month sale process, you've actually got to get so many people on side. So when it gets presented as a business case, they all go tick, 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 tick. And I think with so much consolidation that's going on now and these consolidators getting bigger and bigger and bigger, they're becoming more institutional type sale processes. So you have to and so your hero leader, your rainmaker sales guy that's brilliant at selling to sub 5 RI businesses, directly authorized businesses, maybe he's not equipped to deal with a large institution because you can't win them over on personality. You might actually have to do some data, some business casing, touching everything.
And go through commercials in more detail. And sorry, that's where you say about different roles, I guess. That's where you look at someone like a head of strat partners who can attack those nationals and networks. And it's...
Yeah, as we're saying, we were talking earlier and you were saying, Dave Beattie, I was like, a good guy. Yes, we've given him that job. Like, he's well equipped for that, right? He's perfect. And the other thing is having confidence. Yeah. So... there was always an old school of thought that in retail financial sales, the most salespeople are kind of they're not very confident, and they need the excitement of the win to give them a pep.
Rush.
Rush! I've won again, and the next day I'm back to being where's the next better business going to come from? It's a bit different now, right? Yeah. Because once you've selected you're going to work with 2 or 3 platforms. Yeah. You're going to work with 2 DFMs. Yeah. Maybe 2 or 3 DFMs.
A few different fund providers.
Panel, a few fund providers. Once you're on panel, it's then about keeping the relationship going, kind of thing. So I think the roles have changed slightly, and I think people are kind of getting used to that. That's why processes are slightly different. So institutional, maybe a regional, maybe a directly authorized small firm. So you've got to manage all that within our business. Yeah. The other thing then is kind of having confidence that job titles matter. Yeah. In our world, Dave, some of the sales guys that you probably know, we're talking about some of the guys that have just recently joined us. across. Then we've got Kim Campbell, who kind of now leads all the sales team. Don't know if you know Kim. Great at kind of going out and just knocking down doors. Then Mike Morrow, I don't even know Mike, and Mike's been around for ages and knows everybody kind of thing. And then me, right? And as I said, I spend most of my time now meeting existing and new clients, because you're not going to sell to an institution probably unless, I've had direct contact with their CEO. No, and we've shook hands. And so your roles are facilitating that. Yeah. You're going to get the credit for it, right? Yeah. I don't get paid a sales credit. So ultimately, use the resources. And I think that becomes quite difficult because sales guys want to control everything. Yeah. So, this is my relationship. Yeah. I've created this. Yeah. And the reality is the best ones are kind of confident, right? And just pull in the resources. Yeah. Just manage the strings.
Something that I've tried to use, for example, this week was down in Milton Keynes with a firm, and one of my colleagues used to work with them. So I was like, he's a competitor BDM, well, he's a colleague BDM, but we don't work in the same region. I was like, let's bring him in. Yeah, let's bring him in. Let's use that. But it's influenced the way that I sell as well, particularly the multifaceted element, because we used to coin it whale hunting. So if you're going after that kind of national bigger firm, you might convince a paraplanner, and then you've got an investment committee that you have to convince, and then you've got the CEO. Yeah. Sometimes that process can be drawn out and you can lose it at the last minute. So it's very, very hard. High risk, high reward, isn't it?
You spend a year looking after 3 and then none of them go your way and you've not hit target.
But then you find like the owner business models, and they can still be big firms. Could be a 300, 400 million pound outfit. Yeah. You've got 3 directors and then they've got a couple of paraplanners below them. It's so much easier for them to kind of turn that cog if they've made that decision. And kind of start seeing sales if it wants to go that way. So it's influenced me a lot.
Exactly right. And how much, if there's a regional firm, if there's a more national, whatever model they want to call themselves, aggregator, I don't mind. Yeah. Who's the decision maker? Yeah. Do they have central control or don't they? Getting on panel, does getting on panel win you business? Yeah. No, it buys you a ticket to the game.
It does.
You've still got to go and see the underlying advisor. So that's why I come back to, it's a contact sport. Yeah. Right, you've got to go and see people, make people feel special, and I think without that, and that's where I think COVID and digital. We want a digital business, and we want a digital business because we get maximum operating leverage. So that's how we make profits that we can reinvest back. Yeah. To win new business, it's a contact sport. Always has been, and I haven't seen it changing. I haven't seen it changing yet. And maybe it's that one I like meeting people. So I like being out seeing customers. I like visible leadership. I like being in the office. Yeah. And so maybe I think that way. Yeah. But I haven't seen anyone be successful that hasn't put boots on the ground.
And that might not have changed, I guess, over the years. It's always been a contact sport and always will be. How has sales changed in your journey through financial services?
Quite a lot. I mean, I was in the life company. Life companies had massive sales teams, right? So they had massive account management teams. So what you did is you basically served your apprenticeship. Yeah. You built there was branches back then. So the branches were very powerful, like the local mayors. If you're a branch manager, you're like your local mayor. Your local mayor then kind of got, the accounts then over time you got the better accounts. Yeah. And you built your panel effectively. Then you sat back, and it was a bit like IFAs now post RDR. Yeah, they don't stand there on the 1st of January worrying about what they've got to sell this year. They know because they've got they've moved into financial planning. Yeah, that financial planning is giving them annuity stream from those clients. Same way that these BDMs in the old life, they kind of built those panels, and so people earn a lot of money. Yeah, probably not doing not doing a huge amount of kind of stuff. I think that's different now, right? So the margins are so much smaller. Yeah. So we're operating on very thin margins. We can't afford a team the size of a big national team. Some of the big platforms or the big DFMs maybe. Even the old school.
Even that's gone small, because I remember when you speak to some of the older IFAs, when they love telling you the story. We started off at the Pru back in the day. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, I was in Birmingham. How many reps did they have there? We had 50 reps in Birmingham. Yeah.
Yeah.
The closest you get to it is the tax efficient space, where it seems to have much smaller patches, but generally you have probably 10 regional BDMs.
Exactly. You do. And so I think it's different now. You don't have those big teams. You don't have the branch, which is a shame, because I think the branches were really quite a useful interface between sometimes head office. And so, as we were talking about earlier, that if I'm the regional head, I'm effectively running my branch. I'm running all the roles of sales hunter, sales farmer kind of thing. I'm also an agent of my customers back into. So it's a really difficult job. About how do you manage? And I think that the job that we have to do better as a probably a leadership team is make sure that we understand that, and that make sure we incentivize the right things. Yeah. You get what you. The classic one is always if you turn around and say, right, I want you to do 5 meetings a day. Yeah. You'll do 5 meetings a day, right? If that's what you're going to pay for, doesn't mean they're going to be effective.
The quality of those meetings, are they filler meetings?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And so I think that balance is quite hard. Yeah. I think post RDR now, it's very different. Back then it was if you're selling an investment bond, have I got a high allocation rate? Is my commission higher? You just had to sort of tweak some of the numbers, the product there. Now people have kind of, getting somebody to change their CIP isn't straightforward, right? I mean, you're dealing with this on a daily basis. Getting someone to think about, should I move away and do a co-manufactured product and have something kind of mine? Yeah. Do I want to change platform and migrate clients? Yeah. They're really big kind of business problems now. Yeah. And so I think the role of, and also we also talk about this sort of financial advice, financial planning. I think I'm sort of thinking about this a lot recently, that I don't need financial advice. And the reason why is I don't need to buy any more products. Yeah. I need financial planning, right? And I have an advisor, but they're giving me financial planning. People get lost. Financial advice is the purchase of a product or recommendation of a product, right? So the BDM's role now is more of a business consultant, and they need to understand what are the business challenges. Yeah. Where are the inefficiencies? How can we help? Yeah. Pumping up with my product's better than your product, or my one's better than their one. This is cheaper. Yeah. Some people will buy on that. Yeah. And good luck to them. Yeah. We don't position ourselves in that space, but we ultimately kind of need to solve a problem for the advisor. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't have a role there in a post RDR world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's become so much more consultative about how can you impact something from that firm? How can we solve a problem? How can we change how they charge revenue, for example, or different things like that to get the wheels turning? Yeah.
It's and getting them to try you. Yeah. And I just think that whole world is kind of, I don't think there's anything wrong with sales. Yeah. In a sense that, that sometimes we get lost in this industry that, if, they're a salesman of the bank, they're only selling me their bank products. Yeah. How am I making sure that I've got the best product? Well, people know, right? I turn up from bank XYZ. Yeah. They're only selling the bank products, right? There's nothing wrong with sales in that sense. Our world's slightly different. The world that we operate in now is one where we become more business consultants, become more, and that's when we get into that agent of the client and the agent of the company again, kind of thing. So I think it's just a different type of job. But what it hasn't changed is there are people who can win business. Yeah. And there are people who can't win business, right? And it all gets called sales. Yeah. And so finding those people who can win business, they're a rare breed.
Yeah. How do you think it's going to continue changing over future as well? Because we've got AI has been a huge topic, not just on our side of the fence, but on the financial advice side. Do you think that's going to help or hinder the sales process? Do you think we'll become more consultative? How far can it go?
Yeah, look, I mean, if I go back to when we started when I started at AXA, we were doing out the platform business. We had a sales team, and we had a business consultancy team. Yeah. And the business consultancy team were 100% utilized all the time. It was a great team. And so I've always believed there's a merging of those. How does technology help? Well, look, advisors are, put advisors to one side in terms of the use of technology and how that needs to how technology can support the advice process and bringing that. If I look at it in terms of, a sales team of a product provider, It comes back down to data analysis, trends. So let's just take you two, you've got your panels and you've got your notebook, and all of that data is in your notebook, and you know all of that. And at certain points of that, you might share it with me as your CEO, right? And say, oh, I've got a bit of data, I've got a bit of information. Information is power. I don't think that's making the best use of that data. Mm-hmm. So we use Salesforce in the front end. So I think all of that needs to go in there. Mm-hmm. All of that data, all those, when did I meet? What did I talk about? What are the business challenges? And then we can run our analytics over all of the data that sits within Salesforce. And I think we'll start to find opportunities and trends. Yep. And what it will allow us to do is match our process or our model for how we deliver to the client's needs. Yeah. There is no point us in our telephone sales team phoning that person every month. Because if you notice, when you read the notes, they say, I don't need you to call me for another 6 months. Yeah. So you then dynamically direct your contact strategy. So
makes you more effective.
Makes you more efficient and effective. And that's how I think we can. So contact sport, but make it efficient and effective. Do the right things and do them well. And I think data and AI and all that will help in that space, allow us to build probably more effective or more meaningful interactions. We're not there yet. I think, there's still quite a lot, for example, and I say this to you guys, and I'm thinking, I've met a number of customers. Got back on Tuesday. I've met a number of customers this week. Yeah. I haven't put that data into anywhere. Yeah. And I'm sure the guy that looks after that account would love to know. Yeah. So we've got to get better at that stuff.
And I think that's where it can go to, because these tools now, like Salesforce, you can have your phone linked into it. And you can, with AI, you'd be able to kind of ask the system, give me an update on what's happening. It might be even personal stuff like, last time you were on the phone to Peter, he said him and his wife have been away to wherever. And
correct.
Be able to kind of cater that experience.
That's what I mean about that whole relationship management. And if they're comfortable, the note-taking stuff's quite common now. Yeah. So you could quite happily just record the meeting. Yeah. It would write the notes for you, automatically load them up to Salesforce. And then when you come back in 6 months' time, you say, run me a summary, Copilot summary over the top of all the meeting notes. Yeah. Make sure you ask them about, and look, is it fake relationship? It's not. It's just, it's effective relationship, right? Because you can't remember everything about, well, you're younger, right? Because so you probably remember a lot of stuff. I can't remember names now. Hello, it's a hello kind of thing.
Any good salesperson, if they did remember, say something personal, they would lead with that. Yeah. Because it's a relationship type business. Of course. So it's just making you...
And it's not that you haven't forgotten, just need reminding of it. So for me, I think there's going to be a lot of change in that space. It'll be interesting to see how the shape and the dynamics of the advisor kind of world changes. Does it all consolidate around 10, 20 large advice firms or not? I don't...
We're all out of a job.
But the role's different then. Yeah. I don't believe that's going to happen personally. I think consolidation will continue, but I think the role of that independent and the small, there's still a long way to go in that space, right? So for us, 5,000 independent firms in the UK, we've got to have a relationship with all of them. Yeah. We don't. Yeah, today. So the job's not done till we do.
Well, that's the thing about the AI stuff, isn't it? It's so interesting because as much as you said there, is it a fake relationship? No. Good salesperson would lead with the stuff that you've remembered. But if your job changes where now I've not got a panel of 20 like I might have had 10 years ago, my panel is the 1,000 in the Northwest that don't use us. That's really difficult to remember John's daughter's name who's done a cheerleading competition on the weekend. So,
and where do you spend your time? Yeah. So when you get up on a Monday and you're planning your week. Yeah. Anyone can be a busy fool.
Yes.
Right. And coming back to my point about what gets measured, gets managed. If we set the incentive scheme, I want you to do 20 appointments a week, you can be a busy fool. It won't yield any return. It also doesn't mean that, well, this firm is a billion size firm. This firm's a 10 million pound firm. Doesn't mean that you're going to get more business from the £1 billion firm, right? It doesn't. So how do you manage? It's not so. And at the moment, I don't. I'm sure in your business, the same in our business. We've got all our segmentation models. We do all our analysis. We know where we're getting business. We know what we're expecting. We know what the margins are. Blah 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 blah. But when you want to grow, you deal with 100. As you just said, there's 1,000. Where do I spend time with that? Where do I go?
Yeah.
It's too easy to keep us, let's phone the 100 and just get some more coming.
Or even easier to do the 20 that I know.
The 20 you know, and you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that like you.
And you're
not going to get rejection therapy on a Monday morning.
Yes, because it's hard turning up and getting rejected.
Yeah.
The resilience, the core role of a frontline seller is resilience. You're going to get a lot more no's than you get yeses. And so I think that's where we've got to get better. And I think that comes back to better CRM, better note-taking, better analytics that sit across all of that. And the technology's there. So we've just got to get to use it a bit better.
I think it's so big because the opportunity is so big because salespeople naturally are probably not the best at that type of stuff. A good salesperson probably isn't going to be a great note taker or note updater. Martin, you're perfect example here. You've been on 4 days on the road and not a note has been added to your CRM.
I got an admin day on Friday. The mythical admin day. Yeah.
And you get away with that because it's winter, but if it was Friday in summer, you'd be around the golf course.
Could, yeah. Hacking my way around.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's, how can we acknowledge what we're probably naturally not the greatest at, our weaknesses and our strengths, and that is, for me, and I know probably similarly for you, Marcus, there are bits like that can be brushed up by using tech and using AI.
That's where tech should help, not tech for tech's sake. Think about an advisor, tech in terms of the productions of meeting notes, statements of advice, and my understanding is a financial planner gets paid to give financial planning. They don't get paid to download Excel spreadsheets and load them back up to IntelliFlow and run timesheet reports, right? But I'm sure a few people are doing that. My role is to be a CEO of Parmenion and I make decisions and we kind of manage issues and we build new products and all of that. Is my job to sit there kind of spending half a day typing up meeting notes? No. So we've got to use technology to help us. And I think people are a bit more accepting of that nowadays. People recording meetings, again, not my most favorite recording meetings.
Yeah.
But it just makes life efficient, keeps you focused.
Yeah, good. We built a great community here at Trusted, Martin. A lot of your kind of sales team are in there as well, but not just that. We've got advisor success managers, key account managers, BDMs, CEOs, heads of sales, that
teams,
sort of stuff. What kind of parting advice would you leave to them to get the most out of their careers in sales?
Well, I think in any career, whether it's in sales or anything, work hard. Right? For me, you get out for now or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So for me, there are a few things. If I look at my career, I might not be the smartest, I might not be the brightest, but I'm going to work hard, right? So let's kind of go there. Then when opportunities arise, take risks.
Yep.
The biggest career kind of advancements I've ever made are when I've taken the biggest risk.
Yep.
Actually left a couple of companies without jobs to go to kind of thing. And back yourself, right? Most people are amazing at something.
Yep.
Yeah? Can't be amazing at everything, but you're amazing at something. And so, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in sales, whether you're in operations, everyone's in sales, whether you're sitting on reception, right? Back yourself, work hard, and take some risks. And I think ultimately, it's not going to be too bad, right? You're not going to progress by doing the same thing at the same time in the same place.
Brilliant, Martin. Really appreciate you coming on today. I'm sure our audience are going to love this episode.
Really enjoyed that.
Really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time, guys.